So I just start over?
Yeah, I think we should start from the beginning, because I don't think there's going to be anywhere for you to edit that in.
It's Friday, June 10th, 2016, and this is episode 16 of Due for a Win, the Atlantic City and Casino Biz podcast. I'm Craig Stone. With me is Kyle Askin.
Howdy.
So we have a lot to get through today, news-wise. A couple of less exciting things before we get to the big announcements about openings and not mergers, but purchases, I guess you'd call it. So the first thing is that Chris Christie, the governor of New Jersey, has signed the Atlantic City aid package that includes the payment in lieu of taxes bill, as well as the whatever they're calling the takeover. I guess at this point it just paves the way for a takeover. So that's been signed. We talked about how it had been passed, and now the city of Atlantic City has 150 days to come up with a plan that is satisfactory to the state to avoid, a full-on takeover where the state can do things like bust the unions and void public worker contracts and that kind of stuff. I'm not sure that there's a whole lot to say about this. I don't know if you have anything that you want to add about it being signed. I mean, it's nice that he finally signed it and didn't just sit on it and let it die like he did the last time they passed a bill for Atlantic City.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see how it plays out. From what Steve Sweeney and Chris Christie are saying, they basically both believe that Atlantic City will be theirs to run in 150 days. Don Guardian has come out and said that he thinks he can come up with something to not cause that to happen, but I think we will probably know a lot more in the 5 months from now, and in the intervening time.
Yeah, they've both, Steve Sweeney, the state Senate president, and Chris Christie have both said they'd be fairly shocked if Atlantic City can come up with a reasonable plan in those 5 months, but it seems kind of weird that they would come out and say that just a few days later, but it's not really worth getting into, I don't think.
No.
So another thing we talked about is open container laws on the boardwalk. It had been brought up as a possibility that it would be brought to the city council for a vote. That vote never happened. They delayed it because they wanted to get more stakeholders involved, and then they've decided now to shelve it again. And so it seems like there's some discussion about, does the state have to approve this as well as Atlantic City? What exactly has to go through everything? So it seems like it's not going to happen this summer, and it's kind of disappointing to me, at least. And I know the Atlantic City Alcohol Beverage Control Board chair is quite angry because he made a statement that Christian Hedrick posted on Twitter saying, needless to say, it was very disappointing to see the city council once again failed all in caps, to vote on Atlantic City's open container ordinance. Basically just calling out the city council. Failed is in the statement twice in all caps, and he says, this is going to be a financial windfall. You just have to make this happen. And he's very disappointed that they couldn't come up with a solution. So, we got ourselves psyched up for it, and it seems like it's not going to be ready to go for this summer for that trial run that we talked about.
Yeah, so, I mean, in my reading of it, it sounds like there are kind of two things that came up. One is when I first kind of proposed this a few episodes ago, before we knew that I guess there's actually work being done on it, I said one snag that could happen is that the state could just simply not allow it even though they passed something, which it sounds like there's at least some concern over now. And the other thing that it sounds like happened to me is it sounds like Marty Small didn't actually know if he had the votes or not. And I don't know if you got that out of it as well.
Yeah, that seems like a concern.
So something else that I know you said you didn't really want to talk about but something that came up in the Facebook group was Bart Blatstein actually gave a pretty long interview, and in it he one of the things he talked about is how he really wants us to be like this town that really has a lot of allure among sort of 20 to 45-year-old single people, and I think that part of his vision for Atlantic City is sort of, I mean, for that to come true, you kind of have to have things like drinking on the boardwalk. So I'm not sure. I mean, there were some parts of that interview which were, frankly, a little bit out there, I think. Maybe not quite to Glenn Straub levels, but it wasn't stuff I totally agreed with, like how he said there's going to be 20 casinos in Atlantic City. But I do think that the idea that, I mean, my idea for Atlantic City is probably somewhat close to what he envisions it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it was that interview with New Jersey Monthly, I think it was by Ed Condren. So that was our first sort of glimpse of Blatstein as Straubian, to make up a word. It's the first time he really seemed so out there on a couple of things, but mainly the 20 casinos thing and just how optimistic he was about Atlantic City really becoming basically Vegas. But I think he is probably right that the money's in the clubs. If you look at Vegas, he was saying it's 70% non-casino revenue and 30% casino revenue, whereas Atlantic City is more like 75% casino revenue and 25% non-casino. I don't have the numbers, so I'm just going to go with what he said, which is not very journalistically sound. But, it's definitely, we talked about this many times, like Atlantic City is just a gambling town. Gambling drives the entertainment, and I think he's right. I think if it comes down to adding a bunch of clubs, if that's what's going to attract young people, I think you're right. Drinking on the boardwalk is going to be a part of it. It's going to be something that people want. And so, like, this sort of endless tabling of things that the city council seems to do with a lot of stuff it can get pretty frustrating. So I can kind of see where the Atlantic City Alcohol Beverage Control Board chair is pretty frustrated. It's surprising to me also that Marty Small, who's the council president, wouldn't know ahead of time, right, if he's got the votes or not. So, I don't know. Hopefully this still happens. It seems like it's not going to happen this summer, but I guess, I don't know, maybe next summer. But way to get our hopes up, Atlantic City Council.
I mean, just in case I didn't make it clear, I mean, I'm not sure. Like, I was reading between the lines when I said Marty Small may or may not have had the votes. It didn't say that in the article. It didn't. I was just me trying to sort of look kind of between what he was saying and figure out what the possible reasons could be that this actually isn't coming up for a vote.
It did actually say in the article that Marty Small was not sure the proposal had enough votes to pass. So that was said.
So it was not me looking between the lines. It was me actually reading the article. And
right. So that was an Amy S. Rosenberg article in the Philly Inquirer. She did absolutely say that. So that is definitely not something that.
So that's probably the reason that it did not get put up for vote.
Right.
As we learned with the whole debacle with the dueling AC aid package bills.
Yeah, may that never happen again. So that's disappointing. What would be probably even more disappointing is that the Union 54, which is the big casino workers union, is threatening to strike this summer, and that would affect Caesars properties, so Harrah's, Caesars, and Bally's. It would also affect the Tropicana. I'm not sure why it only affects those four and not others. I guess I didn't do my homework on that, but so they're threatening to strike, and really, I mean, it would be a crushing blow to those four casinos to basically have all those workers out during the summer, during peak times. I don't know. I feel like there's surprisingly little detail about this out there. I just saw it in the one article in the Press of Atlantic City by Ruben Kramer and haven't really seen much else. But they're going to vote. So they're going to vote June 16th on whether or not to authorize the strike. So the strike authorization vote will be on June 16th. And then if they vote yes, they'll be able to just strike at any time. So that's something to, I wouldn't say look forward to, but something to follow closely because that could cause a big mess for those four casinos.
So I mean, I don't know the answer. So what happens if they strike? I mean, presumably everything would still be open. They just might have to bring in scabs or something like that, or?
Yeah, I think they would have to. I mean, so they...
I mean, I don't know. I'm sure that people know. I mean, it said in the article that this happened...
in 2004.
Right.
And, yeah, I'm assuming they were on strike for more than a month. And
right. Presumably the casinos weren't just closed for a month. So,
right. So
I'm sure that it's probably just bringing in scabs or something like that. Or getting, people that work in other parts of the casino who aren't striking to help out in the hospitality parts.
Yeah, so I think they said it's, bartenders...
waitresses and things like that, I think.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Bartenders, servers, other hospitality workers, so...
Yeah, so it just seems like, I mean, I'm not sure. It just seems like they think that now that the times are better again, they should be getting more than what the casinos are offering.
Yeah, well...
With the basic justification that they took big cuts during the downtime, so now that things are better again.
Yeah, are they better? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you're still very pessimistic about Atlantic City, but I think they are much better.
I wouldn't say I'm pessimistic necessarily. Certainly with 8 casinos instead of 12, it's much more stabilized. We saw the revenue numbers are much better, especially non-gaming. It seems like the remaining 8 casinos are doing really well. So, yeah, that definitely inspires some confidence in the union, it seems like. But from someone who's an outsider, this on top of the bankruptcy stuff, like the news just seems so bad. So it seems to come so fast and so bad for Atlantic City sometimes. So hopefully they figure something out and don't go on strike. We're kind of bouncing all over the place today with the news. So I think the next thing, with no segue, is North Jersey casinos, which we've said we thought would not pass. We've been pretty optimistic, from our point of view, optimistic, I think, that it wouldn't pass, because the general voter opinion has been pretty low on casino gambling, with the idea that, it didn't really work that well in Atlantic City, so why would we expand it? So Monmouth University did a poll recently saying that 48% now say yes and 48% say no for the referendum. So it is a dead split, according to them. And so this is a Wayne Perry Associated Press article basically saying the new data says right down the middle. So that's interesting. From my point of view, I'm not real happy about it because I'm staunchly against, and will definitely be at the at the election day voting against it. But it's surprising because it seems like the view had been so negative toward it up until this, and it seemed like the campaign to make these happen, to make the North Jersey casinos happen, was going to be such an uphill battle. And now it seems like, well, maybe it's not as uphill a battle as it seemed even 2 months ago. So, again, I mean, I said this last time that we talked about the polls. Like, this is before a dollar's even been spent on, advertising and marketing and trying to shape the public opinion. So it depends on who's putting money where, how much sort of advertising and marketing is going to be done on the pro side and on the against side. And, you're going to have powerful people and very wealthy people on both sides pumping money into this thing. But 48-48, I'm pretty surprised by that. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. And I'm sure more and more polls will come out that will be much more...
enlightening?
Yeah, much more enlightening, much more informative and sort of relevant to the actual vote. Because this is still so far out that I don't think it means a whole lot, but definitely a change from what we've heard in the past. Yep.
I mean, this certainly, you know more about this living in New Jersey than me and followed along better, but this is also surprising to me. It did seem like before it was more unlikely to pass than pass, and that still might be the case, but it at least sheds a little doubt on things, and I'm interested to see what future poll results are.
Yeah. So again, no segue into this next thing as we just run through the news that's happened in the last couple weeks. Doc's Oyster House, which you and I have both been to and enjoyed immensely, I think.
Yeah, it was great.
Is open again. So it was closed for a little while. They reopened it now with a huge, huge renovation. I think it's, 3 times the size that it used to be. So they had a major expansion. And it is reopened. So they can now house many more people. The capacity is now 330 people, which, I mean, when I went, I guess probably 4 years ago now, I think it was I would be shocked if it was a third of that. So, interesting to see. This is a restaurant that's a family-owned restaurant. It's the same family that owns the Knife and Fork Inn. It's been around for forever. So, good to see that it's reopened. People are pretty excited about it. I know at least one person posted on the Facebook page saying that they are going out of their way to go there, I think, this weekend and check it out. So hopefully they come back and let us know how it was. And, hopefully the food's just
Ed is
good.
super excited, so
yeah.
Hopefully he lets us know.
Yeah, hopefully Ed will tell us how the food is and how it stacks up to how it was when you and I went. We went separately, so both
right, both with our wives, yes.
Whatever anniversary trips or whatever they were.
But yes, it was definitely great. I probably went about 2 years ago, I'd guess. But it was definitely one of my best dining experiences in Atlantic City, and I say that having never gone to like Chef Vola's, Knife and Fork, and other places like that. But Doc's really was very, very good.
So you'd rank it ahead of Tony's Baltimore Grill?
I mean, it depends on what you want, I'll say. But let's say if me and my wife want to do a nice dinner, it is the place that we would probably go. If we didn't want to try one of the other places that I haven't been to yet.
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting because I have a hard time sort of convincing myself that I should go back, even though now it's going to be very different. Hopefully the menu's similar. I'm assuming it's going to be similar, steaks, oysters, seafood. But there's so many other places that I want to try. So next time I go with my wife and we're talking about planning a trip sometime this summer, I expect we'll do, maybe Cafe 2825 or Chef Vola's or was sort of one of the other places because we've already done Doc's, even though this is a very different iteration of Doc's.
The issue with me is I'm sure my wife would love either of those places as well. I personally I'm not super fond of Italian food, so I think I probably would much rather go to Doc's, but I'm certainly willing to give either of them a try if my wife is insistent.
Yeah.
Italian food is like her favorite, and it's like my least favorite.
Wow. So that's like me and Asian food. It's not my least favorite, but I'd basically never choose to eat it, and my wife absolutely loves it. So
yes, I absolutely love Asian food as well. That is my favorite.
So it seems like you should go to Budokan.
I tried to talk you into it, but you weren't interested.
Was that when we went to the Continental instead?
Yes.
I stand by my decision.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the Continental a bunch of times, though. You had never been, so.
Yeah. No, I had never been. It's very good.
It's good.
Yeah, both of those are supposed to be really good.
I would love to go to Budokan sometime. Me and Taylor, maybe. Next time he comes up with us, we'll go. Because he'll definitely he's super interested in Asian food, too, so.
I would go. I've heard enough good reviews now that I would go. Really interesting sort of atmosphere with the big, huge Buddha and kind of like dark and
it does look super dark in there.
Yeah, but that's fine sometimes. It's interesting. It's a different experience. I think it's like a unique sort of atmosphere, and so a lot of people have asked us in the Facebook group. I say a lot. It's probably 2. Sort of what are the quintessential things that you should do if you're going to Atlantic City for a couple nights and you haven't been before or you haven't been in a long time. And the thing that I always say, and I think people may think that it's kind of corny, is go to the playground pier, go up to that 3rd floor, and go to one of the restaurants. Go to like Continental, go to Budokan, and just sit there because you're out over the water. It's looking back at the boardwalk and the beach and the casinos, and I think that's just a really cool experience. So even though it's kind of maybe not as quintessential AC as like Knife and Fork or Doc's, to me, I think it's very cool and something as a first timer, it's probably worth doing. So speaking of food, Borgata has announced some food and drink options. We had talked a bit about their plan for an outdoor pool. They released a press release talking about that outdoor pool and also talking about the beer garden that is going to be adjacent to it, and then also the marketplace that is replacing what was the cafeteria that had your favorite Fat Burger, Tony Luke's, and a couple other things. There's like a Ben & Jerry's down there. So we saw that all walled up. We posted a picture of the wall covering the escalators on our Twitter feed last time we were in town. So the marketplace, just starting with that, they say their press release says the marketplace will present an inviting atmosphere where guests are encouraged to taste and experience an abundance of fine cheeses, charcuterie, olive oil, and Lavazza coffee from the coffee bar. So like, I know that this is a thing, but it's a thing that I just could not care less about, is like the olive oil bar.
I agree.
So there's Chelsea Market in New York has a big olive oil bar, and they're in like taps like beer would be, and you get them in like little growlers like you'd get beer. So I saw it and I was like, that's awesome, it's beer. No, it was olive oil. And that was not exciting at all. And it's like a bunch of weird flavors of olive oil. So apparently that's really something that people are really into. Like, more power to you if that's your thing.
I mean, seems like something that foodies would like. However, I'm far from a foodie, so.
Right. So the interesting thing to me, besides just the press release jargon, which I always love, is that this is a retail store. It's going to have some food dining stations, they call them, but it seems like a big section of it's going to be dedicated to this retail, and this is something that actually is pretty popular in New York. There's a place, the basement of the Plaza Hotel is very similar. It's Todd English, who totally did the whole thing, and it's the same thing. It's retail, and then there's little restaurant stations where you sort of sit in the middle of this. I mean, Italy is a much, much bigger version of this, basically, but I don't think it's comparable just because it's so huge. There's a place in Brookfield Place in downtown New York called Le District that's the same kind of thing. It's all French, but and it works really well. I'll say it is very, very cool, and I think Borgata is the perfect place for it. I expect it's going to be high-end, just because the other places I mentioned are all very high-end, and so, certainly, like we talked about, going from having Fat Burger and Tony Luke's and places where you could grab food really quick for cheap, get a meal for less than $10, I don't think that's going to be in the cards anymore. So that's kind of a disappointment in some ways, but it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. There's going to be an option, I think, to do sit-down eating, sort of in what it sounds like, sort of like the wine area. So I guess I didn't copy that into the notes, but they did mention that there's going to be like sit-down eating on top of the dining stations. One of the things they say about the retail area is that there will be a dedicated retail specialist available to guide customers through the store and assist in selecting items for customized gift baskets, while an ambient wine bar allows guests to dine in. Oh, so there's the dining in, and enjoy a collection of vintages from around the world. So a dedicated retail specialist is just like a sales floor person, right? Like,
yes,
like
correct.
If when I go to the Gap and somebody helps me pick out a shirt, is that
a dedicated retail specialist?
Okay.
Yes.
So again, PR speak is just the best. I love it. And this is chock full of it. So I expect, just based on Borgata's track record, that they're going to pull it off marvelously and it's going to be awesome. So we'll see. I mean, I guess it's supposed to be open fairly soon. I know the outdoor pool is supposed to open, I think, July 1st. Or July 1st is the beer garden. And then the pool is supposed to be opening in early July. So I'm not sure about the marketplace. Friday, July 1st. So that is also supposed to be July 1st. So very soon, 3 weeks out. So I'll be interested to see sort of what people's take on it is, and if they like it, or if they feel like, hey, I'd rather go down and get my free samples of teriyaki chicken and then grab a fat burger and head back up to the tables.
Yeah, I mean, you know how I feel about it, so.
I do know how you feel about it, because A, you love fat burger, and B, you gamble at Harrah's almost specifically so that you can run across to Chipotle and get lunch and get back to the table.
Yes. And we were talking about Harrah's Las Vegas, of course.
It's a totally different Harrah's. Totally different experience.
Atlantic City.
Yeah. There's no Chipotle at Harrah's Atlantic City. In case you're wondering, in case you're just dashed to your computer to look up where the Chipotle is, it's not there.
No, but it is right next to Harrah's Las Vegas, and I eat there a lot.
I've never eaten at the Chipotle there, I don't think. So the other thing mentioned, as we get off of the Chipotle topic, is that the beer garden will open next to the new outdoor pool. And so the pool is going to be open only to people who are staying at Borgata or Water Club. The beer garden is going to be open to everybody. And so let me prepare for more press release jargon. It will be a full-service canopied bar. So a bar with a roof on it. Serving more than 15 craft and domestic beers. Now, maybe I'm just a snob because I live and work in a city that has many bars. 15 craft and domestic beers, that's not a lot of taps.
And not only that, last time we got sucked in with a claim like this, it was Mountain Bar, or not the new one in Bally's.
The Boardwalk Saloon.
Yes, the Boardwalk Saloon, and which had 22 quote-unquote craft beers, or some number like that, and there were 0 craft beers. And 22 beers, which were like Budweiser, Miller Lite, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, there wasn't even like Goose Island and
no.
like Anheuser-Busch owned craft beers. So hopefully, I mean, I trust Borgata to do this better than I trust Wild Wild West. So we'll see. I don't really know how well, there are beer gardens here that don't have a ton of beer selection. They have...
Right, but all the beers they have are good.
Right. So that's what I want. I think you can definitely make a better... Like, you don't need to have 100 taps. You can have 15 taps, and as long as they're all really good beers, I'm totally satisfied. And so I feel like I'm seeing that more and more now in New York, where, like, even bars that only have a dozen taps have 8 really good beers, and then, Bud Light, Coors Light. Yeah, I don't know. I think, when I go to a bar and they've got, like, 6 taps and it's 5 macro brews and Yingling, like that, I'm always kind of turned off by that. Like, when Sam Adams is your most micro brew, I get all snobbed out, and I'm like, you guys don't know good beer. But anyways, that's a conversation for a podcast that is not this one.
Sam Adams is good beer, correct?
I don't like it.
It's delicious.
So they also say they'll have an entertainment stage with live bands every Friday through Sunday. There will be a variety of lawn games and activities. The patrons will be treated to unique events, such as Beer and Bites Happy Hour, Pig Roast Thursdays, and Sunday Scotch and Cigars. So, do any of those things sound appealing to you, or are you going to get Scotch and cigars?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this isn't for me. I mean, these are not. This does not intrigue me at all. To me, it seems like it appeals to the sort of people who... I don't know. It's just people are like, oh, this is a really nice, glass of scotch, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I don't know. It's totally not for me. I mean, I'm just not the market that they're going for.
Yeah, so I'm assuming they're going for people who are willing to spend, $10 on a 10-ounce pour of some triple IPA or like Belgian.
Yeah.
And people who... are willing to spend $20 on an old scotch. So
it's just
smart,
I don't know.
Smart business.
For me, and this is probably a 1,000,000% unfair and shows all my biases. It's just for people who really like talking about stuff that that they think they know a lot about, which they probably don't really know a lot about, and it's totally not for me.
Yeah, I'd check it out. I'm interested to see. So I'm one of those people who likes to talk about things like I know what I'm talking about, and when it comes to beer. Which, I don't know what I'm talking about, so I'm still going to totally, scoff at them if they have 15 sort of shitty beers and they claim that they're all craft beers, but,
I drank a Busch Light last night, and it was great.
You know what, though? I'll say this. I love really good beer, but I really love some cheap swill. Give me a Pabst Blue Ribbon, and I'm totally fine. Some Rolling Rock. It's all delicious.
I do like Rolling Rock.
So, that's the beer garden, the pool. We talked about the marketplace. There's the dining stations in the marketplace I totally neglected to mention, but it seems like they're just sort of generic, salad place, burger place, taco place, Asian food place, pizza, and then a sub and Philly steak place. So it seems like, if you've been to Harrah's where they got rid of the sack of subs and whatever else was in that food court area and replaced it with sort of their own version of things, like they've got that donut place that has booze, like boozy milkshakes and frozen drinks. They've got a pizza place that actually the pizza's pretty solid. So it seems like this is going in a similar direction, although it's Borgata, so I'm assuming it's going to be done really top notch. But it'll be interesting to see all of that stuff and how that plays out. So bigger news, openings, plans. Showboat and Revel, who have been closed since we started this podcast, since well before we started this podcast. And in fact, if you actually read the show notes, you'll see that Showboat and Revel still closed is the last item on every single episode. That may not be true for much longer for either of those casinos. And so Showboat...
Well, in theory, by the time we do our next episode, those will not be the show notes.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'll have to figure something else out to put there. So, Showboat, kind of a surprise announcement, I thought. I hadn't really heard much about Showboat at all, other than that Blatstein didn't really have a plan set up. Not that he didn't have a plan, but that he wasn't saying specifically if it was going to be a casino or when it was going to open or anything, and then suddenly he was like, "Oh yeah, we're opening 850 rooms in July." So that's a big 180. So Ruben Kramer, I think, was the first to report on this from the Press of Atlantic City, basically saying 852 rooms, no casino. He's hoping for 4th of July, but it'll probably be the next weekend. He doesn't necessarily think that 4th of July is realistic. But still, very fast turnaround for the Showboat, and interesting that it sort of went from no news to, oh hey, you might be able to get a room this summer at the Showboat. So then Wayne Perry actually wrote something today for the Associated Press, comparing Revel and Showboat's plans for opening and how different they are, and really provided some nuggets that answered a lot of the questions that I had. First and foremost, Blatstein will keep the Showboat name. So the Showboat will open as the Showboat, which means, since it looks like a big boat, that is simple and you don't have to sort of come up with some bullshit excuse as to why you've got this hotel that looks like a giant boat, or try to come up with some other nautical themed name. It said he plans to run it as a non-gambling resort, like we mentioned, but he said there will be numerous attractions. He has not announced any of those attractions. It seems like he has no plans at all to open a casino. I mean, I guess that option is always open to him, but it seems to me like he is planning on just making this just a hotel, no casino. So I guess the big thing that I'm wondering is, did he renovate these rooms that are going to open, or is he just kind of opening them as is, and then the rooms that are not involved in the opening will get renovated while he's got some revenue coming in from the 850 or so rooms that do open. So that I haven't heard an answer to. They did a job fair just a couple days ago that drew 3,000 people for 200 jobs. So that's kind of crazy and shows you just how much demand there is for jobs in Atlantic City. Although I guess that's reflective of how many jobs have been lost in Atlantic City over the last few years. So I don't know, what's your take on Showboat opening with 150 rooms, or 850 rooms? So that leaves about 480 of their rooms not open. But what do you think?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I feel like I don't know enough to have an opinion. I think that, again, this like Revel, it's a little weird and sudden to me, but I mean, I know that you can get a decent room rate, especially on the weekend in the summer, so I guess it makes some sense. But just, it's weird to have a hotel that's only a hotel right there, especially when you plan to have it be so much more later.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like Straub is kind of going with the same plan for Revel, although he claims he's going to have a bunch of other stuff opening up with it. I mean, it seems to me like Blatstein's feeling is basically that the occupancy rates during the summer are super high, so we might as well get this thing opened up and get some income coming in. So like I said, there's about 1,330 rooms at Showboat, so it seems like maybe 450 are not going to be open. So I'm thinking he's probably just opening it as is. I mean, that's based on just nothing, my own assumption, and that he's going to work on those other 480 rooms, and renovate those, and then as those get renovated, he'll sort of cycle out other floors and renovate the floors that he cycles out. But, we haven't heard anything about anything. Restaurants, what's going on with the huge casino floor that's just this wide open, vast expanse at Showboat, because you walked in and the casino floor is this giant rectangle. So is that just going to be walled off and you're going to walk in and it's just going to be walls and you're going to be sad because you know what's actually behind. What used to be behind those walls was a great, in my opinion, casino. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of info that we haven't heard. I mean, I guess we're going to hear a lot very soon in the next 3 weeks. So yeah, interesting stuff. I would definitely book a Showboat room. I mean, if they were cheap Friday, Saturday night, I would totally book it. Maybe I would find it to just be super depressing because I know how much I enjoyed it when it was the Showboat as it was before it closed. But, cheap, decent rooms on the boardwalk are hard to come by.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best piece of news to come out of this whole thing was that it seemed to me like Bart Bladstein kind of just got a Twitter account just to start talking about this, and I could be wrong. He could have had older stuff on it that I just didn't see, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah, and he did actually tweet something about the House of Blues. He posted a picture of the theater saying, oh, this great space will be in use again. So, obviously people are very quick to speculate, oh, the House of Blues is going to be back. That's not what that means. Just because it's being used doesn't mean it's going to be used and it's
used for rock and roll acts or whatever.
Right. So, and I don't really know, who knows what kind of relationship he has with the former tenants. I mean, obviously we've heard so much about the Revel former tenants, but I haven't heard much at all about his, the tenants at Showboat, like House of Blues, or the restaurants, Johnny Rockets. So I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen with that? But it'll be interesting to see. Definitely follow our Twitter account. We'll be posting and retweeting whenever we see any news about this come up. So the other big thing that Wayne Perry talked about was Glenn Straub and the updates of his attempted opening that we are now 5 days away from on June 15th. And he still claims it's going to happen. And every day I feel like somebody goes on Twitter and posts a picture of Revel where this ropes course is supposed to be, and there's just nothing happening. No crews or anything, no construction crew, nothing going up. So he says in 5 days, He's going to open 900 rooms. He figures they will be occupied by guests of the casino company. Like he said, he'll take walk-ins, but he figures most of them will be guests of the casino operator, which kind of makes no sense because the casino is not going to be in place at that time. Like it seems like it's going to take more like 2 more months or so to get the casino up and running. So I don't really understand that portion of it. There's still no phone line. There's still no reservations or anything. They don't have a name yet. Although he did say that he has some Asian painters coming up with the artwork, which Wayne Perry presumed maybe was a hint toward the name or the theme of the casino. So it'd be interesting if he does go very like Asian themed, since that's all the rage in Vegas development. But I don't know. I mean, I can't I guess that opens up a lot of name options, but none of the ones we've seen thrown around were Asian inspired.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I mean, we'll know more. Presumably we'll know more by Wednesday, but who knows?
Yeah, when just nothing happens. When Wednesday comes and like literally nothing happens and nothing opens, and he's just like, oh yeah, we didn't quite make it. That's my prediction. So he did say the ropes course was going to happen by June 15th. I don't see how. He said they'd open 13 cabanas, meaning I'm guessing they're going to have the pool up and running, the zip line, and a 13-story bicycle endurance track in the parking garage. Now, I don't know what a bicycle endurance track is. I don't know how it's possible that it would be 13 stories. So this kind of gave me more questions than answers. And I'm just really confused about all this because it seems like everything we've seen has been that nothing's ready to go. Like, we haven't heard anything about restaurants, and the restaurants are run by independent companies who you think would all have, have their shit together enough to be like, oh, hey, you can make a reservation now at Muscle Bar. Like, we're opening in 5 days. But we haven't heard any of that. So,
yeah,
I just can't see it opening in 5 days. Maybe you'll have 2 rooms open. Maybe it'll be like, yeah, we opened. You can walk in and get a room right now. We don't have cleaning staff. So, I don't know. The whole thing's incredibly confusing, and I don't know. I'll say I don't see it happening on June 15th, but he still says it's going to happen.
We will see. I mean, it's 5 days away.
Yes. So actually, one question that I kind of popped into my mind based on this information about Revel and Showboat is, since so much of the success of Atlantic City is pegged on gaming revenue, and you see it with, that's the way they compare month over month and year over year at the casinos. That's the way they say, it's $2.6 million in casino revenue, down from its peak of 5.2. Like, you see that in every single article about the state of Atlantic City. These casinos, for now, are going to open and not bring in casino revenue. So it'll be interesting because it's not going to be really clear, I think, how successful they are, because we're not going to get the data. So we're going to have to rely on anecdotal evidence. And, I'm assuming they're both, like, knowing how Bart Blatstein and Glenn Straub are and how they've talked about their other projects. I'm assuming that no matter what happens, they're going to be like, this is a great success. Like, if Showboat opens and they rent, 20% of the rooms that they open up, I have a feeling we're still going to hear Blatstein say how amazing it is. I mean, he said how successful the playground is, and I think we have differing definitions of success, but I don't know. So that's kind of an interesting side note of just random Atlantic City geeking out on the data kind of thing, is that, we always think about the gaming revenue, and we're not going to get a lot of data from these, I don't think. I don't know. I mean, do you know something different? Am I missing out on something?
No, I mean, I think it's gonna, like you said, it's gonna be a lot of anecdotes, and I mean, I imagine some of it is gonna be reported by the local press and people that have sources and connections in the company, but it's not gonna come out in the publicly reported data that the New Jersey State Gaming Commission puts out.
Yeah, I mean, they're not gonna be, well, Revel will be, I'm assuming, because they want to open a casino, but Showboat's not gonna be subject to the same reporting, right? Like
Right.
the Chelsea is not on these lists.
Yeah, but honestly, we really don't have any of that information for any of the other casinos that are open now, so we are not seeing the full picture.
Well, yeah, we do see some like annual revenue reports that try to peg.
That is actually true. Yeah, you're right. But we don't get the month by month breakdowns. We only get the annual sort of reports for these casinos. You're right. There is something that comes out.
Yeah, it's much more difficult to track. But I'm interested to see how it does. I think, just room rates alone will be a pretty clear indicator. If Showboat opens and 2 weeks later the room rates are $50 on a weekend, I think you can surmise that it's not doing so great. But yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested to see how it happens. And one big thing that gets talked about, or that got talked about with these openings, is that they are opening things that are, well, right now Showboat, it seems like, is just a hotel, but Revel's really trying to go with non-casino attractions. So if you think that that's the future of Atlantic City and what they really need to do, which I think most people do, this really, you really need to be hoping that this succeeds because things like ropes courses and endurance bicycle tracks or whatever he's talking about and equestrian and all that other stuff, like that kind of stuff is supposed to be the attraction beyond just the gaming that Atlantic City needs to move forward from totally reliant on gaming revenue, especially if North Jersey gets casinos. So the big news that we're now pretty late on reporting about, because this happened, probably 10 days ago or more, is that MGM Resorts, seemingly out of nowhere, purchased the remaining 50% of Borgata from Boyd Gaming. So it's always been a 50-50 split, MGM and Boyd. MGM actually had some shady dealings that I guess New Jersey didn't like and forced them to put their 50% holding in escrow for quite a while. And that was, I think a few years ago, they were allowed to get their 50% back. And so now they're buying the other 50% from Boyd Gaming. And this was a shock. I mean, I was completely caught off guard. I don't know if you had heard any inklings at all about this. And I know it's something that we had talked about, like, 50% MGM, is it going to be under M Life? Is it going to be under whatever Boyd's, Be Connected or whatever it's called, Players Club? It was never under either. It was always under its own thing. So the reaction was really interesting on Twitter and the Facebook group, because I think the first minute was just, holy crap, like, this is incredible. MGM, huge national chain, has a presence all over the place, has presence in Vegas, is opening the National Harbor casino just outside of D.C. in Maryland. They've got casinos in Biloxi and other places. And so there's an excitement about now having another place where you can play in Atlantic City and convert your play to rooms elsewhere, specifically in Vegas. Because for now, Total Rewards is the only game in town for that. And for a long time, that was our reason for sticking with Total Rewards, right? Like, we basically said, we go to Vegas maybe once a year, and for 3 to 4 years, that was pretty much the case. And so if you're going to go to Atlantic City, you might as well gamble at Total Rewards properties where you can turn around and get a comp in Vegas, because I certainly don't play enough in Vegas to get comps just on the merits of that play. And I think we've seen that in the Facebook group also, is a lot of people said, hey, I go to Vegas, once or twice a year, and that alone keeps me in the Total Rewards ecosystem. So the big initial reaction was, now we're going to have M Life, which is an assumption. I mean, we don't know for sure that M Life's going to be the Players Club, but I would certainly assume. So I don't know. What was your initial reaction when you heard of it? Were you excited? Were you skeptical, nervous, some combination thereof?
I actually was probably none of those things. I mean, for me, I guess I'm a little bit not skeptical, but moderately concerned because I've been on record over and over saying that Borgata is the nicest place to play in Atlantic City, and I don't want anything major to change for the worse there. But I suspect that there might be minor changes, after MGM gets in there and sort of things settle down a little bit. They might raise some fees and rates in the Borgata. I'm actually almost positive they're going to. But hopefully they're not going to change too much about the actual experience in the casino and the gaming and the stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, my initial reaction was sheer excitement. Like, within seconds of seeing that pop up on Twitter, I was just like, wow, this is incredible. MGM, big casino company, pretty well regarded. I mean, in general, if you are not a big Vegas geek who now hates them for their latest profit growth plan practices, there is a sense that like MGM is just a cut above the total rewards properties. I don't know how true that is anymore. I mean, Bellagio was certainly in my mind, better than anything that Caesars has to offer. Like, I don't particularly like Caesars Palace in Vegas, and that's their highest end thing there. And for a while, Caesars was kind of just out there buying up any junk property they could get their hands on. But at this point, they've renovated a lot of them, and I'm not sure. I mean, there's a very good chance that the next time I go to Vegas, I stay at the Link. But that's, not Atlantic City related. So my initial excitement was like, okay, wow, I would love to go play at Borgata and see if I can get some comps at, Bellagio and Mandalay and other casinos, whatever Park MGM or whatever they're changing the name of Monte Carlo to. But then, I started thinking about the profit growth plan and the things they're doing in Vegas, like, everything's 6-5 blackjack, and just the things that I really love about Borgata, I started getting this fear that they were going to go away. And we've talked about a lot of the things that we really like, which are how well they treat players, their fees. The resort fees are, I think, like third lowest in the city. The parking fee is $5 flat rate, right? So,
yep.
Yeah, I mean, those things are really good for the player. They treat you well. They, maybe not the most generous with room comps, but very generous with other things like buffet passes and match play and things like that. I'd say even more generous than total rewards. So my fear was, are these things going away? Like, are they going to tighten up on the comps? Because M Life certainly has tightened up on the comps on their Vegas players, according to people who play there regularly. And so that fear came in, are they going to make the resort fee $30? Are they going to make parking this variable rate thing that Caesars does now where it's like $25 on Saturday if it's peak time? So I did get very nervous, and I think, at the end of the day, the fees, yes, that's what everybody wants to talk about because they're very tangible, but a bigger concern for me, like you mentioned, was messing with the gambling. If they're going to come in and $20 pie gow poker, if the yellow chip is no longer a thing, right? And there's no more $20 pie gow poker, no more $20 tiles if it's all $25. Like, that doesn't seem like a huge difference, but it makes a difference in sort of your experience and how you feel you're being treated. If they change blackjack to 6-5, even if it's at some of the tables, I feel like that just leaves a really bad taste in your mouth. And to me, the biggest thing is Borgata has a ton of full pay jacks or better tables. They have very, very good video poker there. And MGM, and really the Strip as a whole, as I understand it, has very little full pay video poker anymore.
None, I think.
And so the research, I think, that has gone into things like that in Vegas, or the data that these companies have come up with in Vegas, is a huge majority of the people don't understand the difference between 3-2 and 6-5 blackjack. They don't understand, like, they just sit at a video poker machine and assume it's all the same. So it's really a small percentage of people who care about, making sure they're getting a 9-6 table and making sure, 9-6 pay table on jacks or better, which is full pay, making sure they're getting the best rules on blackjack and on craps. But my feeling is, my hope is that they don't mess with a good thing, and my feeling is if they come in and try to do that, like we've said, Atlantic City is so much more of a gambling town than Vegas. Like, it's so much more reliant on gambling. I have a hard time seeing that being as successful. Like, you can't, it's not on the Strip, you know? Borgata draws people specifically for Borgata. So if they come in and say, well, we've got the nicest property, so we're going to do all this anyway and still dominate, like, I think they might be rudely awakened, but it's hard to say.
I don't know. I mean, for them to come in and if they do completely change the gambling, like you said you were scared about, I don't think it's going to be soon. I'll put it that way. I mean, like I said, I'm moderately concerned, but I think any changes that are made are going to be very slow because I think they know that if they just come in and change everything, there's going to be a huge public outcry, especially considering their reputation right now with everything they're doing in Vegas.
To me, they seem almost defiant about that. You know, like they're very, very much like, well, every other city charges for parking, and, you know, this is profit growth plan is by demand of our customers and things like that. And it does seem like they very much sort of justify all of this in their minds, and they don't see their reputation as bad at all. So I'm not entirely sure that they're gonna come in with that sense of like, well, we don't want to bring our bad Vegas reputation to Atlantic City or anything, because I think they don't see it that way at all. I think you're right, though. I think you're right that it's not going to be instant. I think they're gonna let it play out for a bit, and you know, since since Borgata is such a huge moneymaker, you know, Revel definitely not such a huge moneymaker, but since Borgata is such a huge profit generator, they can basically just sit on this thing, right, and let it collect cash and not make any big changes, and it'll kind of allow them to make small tweaks over a longer period of time that put the screws to you over the course of a couple of years, rather than just instituting all these things at once. So I don't know.
No, they're not going to do it all at once. I mean, I think that would be insanity. But I mean, it's going to be coming, but it's going to be over a period of time.
Yeah. So I mean, my hope is that they sort of say, hey, this place is so well run, because it is, and let's just let it keep doing what it's doing, at least for a while. And, you know, at the end of the day, like, if they raise the resort fee a few bucks and they raise the parking fee a few bucks, like, that doesn't really affect me that much. It's all the other stuff, like, it's stuff that's actually on the casino floor. You know, the service, the comps, the, you know, not necessarily actual comps, but things like match play, and just the availability of games that are not exorbitant. I mean, the crazy thing to me is that I feel like I go to Borgata and they've got lower limits sometimes than Tropicana has on a, like, Saturday afternoon, evening. So that kind of stuff, you know, I'm worried that it'll be going by the wayside and would affect me much, much more than a few extra bucks on the parking charge.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I don't know. I don't know if you have anything else to add about MGM. I think in general, like, my overall sense is excitement, but there's definitely a level of weariness. Whereas it seems like you're more just like, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I think changes are going to come, but I don't think it's going to come all at once. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you seem to be much more pessimistic about this, I guess. I don't know.
It's not pessimistic. It's overthinking it, right? Like, it's just because I was so excited about it when I first heard about it. I think I had to sort of check myself and think, oh, but what about the bad things? What about, you know, it's not like MGM's some great company that I'm so glad that they're coming in. I mean, what company is? Like, what casino company is? Like, I'd be more excited if Borgata, as a management company, was taking over some other casino, right? Like, they're as good as it gets. So, you know, MGM, Caesars, whatever, Las Vegas Sands, like, Wynn, none of them are really great for the players necessarily. So, which in a way should give you reason for optimism, because the one thing that all those companies have in common is that they are major Las Vegas Strip operators. So if you feel like they're sort of, whatever they do that's not good for the player is more of a product of being on the Las Vegas Strip than sort of a company philosophy. Maybe that's a reason for optimism, but it definitely seems like MGM's company philosophy right now is to squeeze every penny they can get out of their players. So, yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see. I'm not as pessimistic as I think I made it seem. It's just that I've thought so much about, like, oh, what could possibly go wrong? So I'm sorry if I've made it sound like I'm so totally pessimistic about it when I'm not really. But, you know, something to follow. Something exciting for Atlantic City at the very least. Are we ready to wrap this thing up?
Yeah, I think so. I think this has been a pretty long episode.
I don't know if it's actually been a long episode or if we've just been interrupted by dogs and babies. And by that I mean my dog and my baby.
Yeah, well, we have, like... yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, we'll see.
Either way, I think it's time.
Yeah, let's do it. So, I want to thank everyone for listening. Thanks to anyone who's been posting in the Facebook group. We're up to 58 members, I think, which is pretty cool. You can go there and talk about whatever you want to talk about Atlantic City related, whether that's your excitement about M-Life or dread about MGM Profit Growth Plan, or your feelings about restaurant openings, and ask questions about where to go and what to eat and where to gamble and all that stuff. You will find our podcast with the show notes that link to all the stories that we talk about at doforawin.com. You can find our podcast on iTunes, on Stitcher, and on Google Play. We're on Twitter at doforawin. The Facebook group that I just mentioned and did not give a URL for is at facebook.com/groups/doforawin. And you can send questions to doforawin@gmail.com. So we look forward to hearing from you all, and hopefully we'll be back on in a couple of weeks.
So before we log out, I mean, maybe I'll just take this opportunity to talk about something else that sort of has popped into my mind recently over the last few days. So I know we've talked about this briefly in other episodes, but do you think, like, let's say right now, someone came down, gave you, I don't know, $50,000 or $100,000, and they're like, I want you to invest this in real estate somewhere. Is Atlantic City, like, a plausible place to do that? Because clearly two very rich men, Bart Blatstein, Glenn Straub, think it is the best place to invest in real estate. What do you think?
I'm pretty risk averse, so I probably would not do that, but I did just read an article about people who are buying up insanely cheap real estate in Atlantic City and basically being landlords. Like, they're renting it out.
I saw that as well. I don't remember what paper that was in, but I definitely saw that.
Yeah, there's money to be made there, but I can't see myself using it for that.
It's just too risky?
Yeah, I mean, it's high risk, high reward. You know, if it pays off, you're going to go...
So here's my claim. I mean, is it really high risk? Are prices really going to go down that much farther?
That's a good point. It's actually, yeah, you could argue it's very low risk and very, very high reward, right? Like, if in 10 years, Bart Blatstein's dream comes true and there are 20 casinos, like, anything you bought for whatever, $100,000 is going to be worth way, way, way more than that. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe we should all be buying Atlantic City, property as our lottery ticket towards retirement.
I think it's interesting. I personally, I mean, if you look at it compared to any of the other property on the New Jersey shore anywhere, I mean, it's not cheaper, not just cheaper, it's drastically, wildly cheaper. And I actually think it's pretty interesting. And I think it's happened several times on the show, I think I have a more optimistic view than you do, but I think it is probably a reasonable time to get into Atlantic City real estate. But I mean, I tend to agree with Glenn Straub and Bart Blatstein, but I don't know, maybe that's just me.
So it's interesting that you mentioned the risk thing, right? Because one thing that Blatstein actually said in the article we mentioned, where he says there are going to be 20 casinos in Atlantic City, is I don't know if he was asked or if he just brought this on whatever, unsolicited. But he said something like, oh, so what happens if Showboat fails, right? Like, he paid $20-something million for it. So he said, so what if it fails? I have the nicest beach house on the boardwalk. right? Like, could you imagine basically you have the showboat to yourself as a beach house because you're not making any money on it as a hotel? So that's how he sees it. Like, it's so low risk to him. I mean, $23 million to Bart Blatstein probably doesn't. I mean, it's meaningful, but it's not a devastating thing for him if it fails. And same thing for Straub. $82 million for a property that cost over $2 billion to build. Like, the risk is insanely low, and you've brought that up many times. Like, he bought something that was so cheap that, he can afford to do things like, say, he's going to make it a whatever, campus for geniuses, or put in a bunch of ropes courses and crazy whatever virtual bungee jumping stuff, and just see what sticks. So yeah, maybe it's not high risk, and maybe that's actually what Atlantic City needs for sort of just trial and error and getting towards this future where it's not just a gambling town. But as I've said with every other topic that we talked about today, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. I do think when people look back on sort of the 2010 to 2015 era, they'll see that it was a great opportunity, but maybe not. I mean, maybe that's just my personal prejudices sort of clouding my judgment.
I was reading that Blatstein article, and I kind of had visions of both sides, where it becomes Camden, New Jersey, where everything's just desolate and you've got these big hulking shells of former casinos, or the flip side of it, where they totally nail the thing, I mean, over a long period of time with non-gaming attractions, and it really does become the biggest attraction on the Jersey Shore of casinos, non-gaming attractions, shows, and just everything, and it really becomes like the Vegas of the East. And I could totally see it going both ways. And, I don't want to sound totally pessimistic, because I think of those two scenarios, I would actually argue that the success scenario is more likely. Just because I think there's still $2.6 billion coming in just in gaming revenue alone. Like, there's a lot of money there. And if it's just a matter of figuring out how to get people to spend money on things other than gambling, I think somebody's going to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm optimistic.
Yeah,
so I just thought it was an interesting little conversation to have.
Yeah, and I think that's a good optimistic way to end the show, Kyle.
I do what I can.
Yeah, so.
All right. Anyway, I think we've already done the sign off, but thanks guys for listening, and we'll talk to you guys in 2 weeks.
Yep, see you then.
When are we,
Going to Vegas?
Yeah.
August.
No. Try again. Later in the year.
July 2017.
Maybe.